Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are stepping into the heart of medieval Europe to explore one of the most decisive and dramatic clashes of the Middle Ages, the confrontation between the Teutonic Knights and the combined forces of Poland and Lithuania. Imagine a world of armored knights, banners fluttering in the summer breeze, and the tension of tens of thousands of soldiers gathering for a battle that could change the fate of entire kingdoms. In 1410, the Teutonic Order, a powerful and well-organized military-religious organization led by Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungwirth, faced an unprecedented challenge. For nearly 2 centuries, the Teutonic Knights had carved out a state in the Baltic region, enforcing their authority over conquered territories and waging campaigns that earned them a fearsome reputation. Yet this summer, everything was about to be tested. A massive army of Poles and Lithuanians, numbering around 30,000, crossed the Vistula River, marching boldly into the heart of Teutonic territory. This was not just a border skirmish or a minor raid. It was a full-scale invasion. Their mission was clear: to confront the Knights and challenge the dominance they had maintained for generations. Political rivalry, historical grievances, and a desire for retribution combined to create a tense atmosphere, setting the stage for one of the largest and most consequential battles of the medieval era. As we dive into this story, we will uncover the strategies, the heroics, and the pivotal moments that made the Battle of Grunwald a defining turning point in European history. The tension that led to the Battle of Grunwald was not born overnight. For decades, the Teutonic Knights had expanded their territory through conquest, often imposing harsh rule on local populations. One particularly contested area was Samogitia, a strategic region lying between the Teutonic strongholds in Prussia and the northern lands of Livonia. Its position made it a vital corridor for the Knights, and they were determined to maintain control at all costs. However, the local Samogitian people resisted fiercely. Rebellions and raids became a recurring problem, drawing the attention of neighboring powers. Grand Duke Vytautas of Lithuania saw an opportunity in these uprisings and supported the Samogitian resistance, claiming that the land rightfully belonged to Lithuania. At the same time, Poland closely monitored the situation, knowing that any Teutonic expansion threatened its own security and influence. This complex mix of political rivalry, territorial ambition, and historical grievances created a volatile environment. The Knights' reputation for brutality only intensified the desire for retaliation. Both Poland and Lithuania saw this as a chance not just to defend their lands, but to strike a decisive blow against a formidable enemy that had dominated the region for nearly 2 centuries. As the summer of 1410 approached, the stage was set, alliances formed, armies mobilized, and centuries of tension were about to explode into one of the largest battles in medieval European history. To truly understand the stakes of the Battle of Grunwald, we need to look at the history of the Teutonic Order. Founded in the late 12th century during the Crusades, the order was originally a religious and military group dedicated to aiding pilgrims in the Holy Land and defending Christian territories. Over time, however, their mission shifted northward to the Baltic region, where they saw themselves as the guardians of Christendom against pagan tribes. While their religious purpose gave them legitimacy, their methods earned them notoriety. The Teutonic Knights were relentless warriors, often employing brutal tactics to subdue the local populations and expand their territory. Villages were burned, towns seized, and entire communities were displaced or slaughtered in the name of both conquest and faith. Even neighboring Christian rulers sometimes criticized their actions as excessive and merciless. By the early 15th century, the order had established a well-fortified state in Prussia, but the scars of their campaigns left a legacy of hatred and distrust among the surrounding nations. Both Poland and Lithuania had historical grievances, including the loss of territory and the suffering inflicted on civilians, which made the Knights natural enemies. This reputation for ferocity meant that any confrontation with the Teutonic Order would not only be a military clash but also a deeply personal and political struggle for justice and survival. As we move closer to the battlefield, it becomes clear that this is more than just a fight over land. It is a culmination of centuries of tension, revenge, and ambition, setting the stage for a truly historic confrontation. By the late 14th century, Lithuania had undergone a monumental transformation. Once the largest pagan state in Europe, it had officially converted to Christianity under Grand Duke Jogaila, who married the young Queen Jadwiga of Poland in 1386 and became King of Poland. This union not only cemented the Polish-Lithuanian alliance but also signaled Lithuania's formal integration into the Christian world. Despite this conversion, the Teutonic Knights continued their aggressive campaigns, claiming that they were still defending Christendom and spreading the true faith. In reality, these raids often targeted Lithuanian towns and villages, resulting in widespread destruction and civilian suffering. The ongoing violence exposed a contradiction. The order claimed to fight for religion, yet their enemy was no longer pagan but a Christian ally. This fueled deep resentment among the Lithuanians, who viewed the Teutonic Knights not as holy defenders but as opportunistic conquerors seeking power and wealth. For Poland, the situation was equally troubling. The Polish crown had previously allied with the order to counter common threats, but repeated Teutonic attacks on Lithuania and even Polish territories revealed that the Knights' ambitions extended far beyond their stated religious mission. As tensions escalated, it became clear that war was inevitable. The Teutonic Order's continued incursions against a Christian state like Lithuania undermined their moral authority, rallied the Polish-Lithuanian alliance, and set the stage for a conflict that would decide the fate of the region for generations. The Polish-Lithuanian alliance was a crucial factor leading up to the Battle of Grunwald. King Jogaila of Poland, formerly Grand Duke of Lithuania, had forged a personal union through his marriage to Queen Jadwiga, blending two influential realms into a single strategic force. Despite previous conflicts and rivalries between Polish and Lithuanian rulers, this alliance allowed the two states to pool resources, coordinate armies, and present a united front against the Teutonic threat. Grand Duke Vytautas of Lithuania, Jogaila's cousin and de facto ruler of Lithuania, played a key role in mobilizing troops and managing military strategy. His leadership ensured that Lithuanian forces could operate alongside Polish units while maintaining their distinct identity and command structure. This partnership was especially important given the Teutonic Knights' formidable reputation. Individually, neither state could hope to match the disciplined Germanic forces in a direct confrontation. The union of Poland and Lithuania was more than a temporary military arrangement, it was a calculated political strategy. By combining their armies, they could leverage manpower, cavalry, and strategic positions across a wide front. They also incorporated mercenaries and allies from neighboring regions, including Tatars and Samogitians, further strengthening their numbers and tactical flexibility. This cooperation set the stage for the impending clash, a coordinated invasion into Teutonic territory, designed not only to defend their lands but also to deal a decisive blow to a long-standing adversary. The Polish-Lithuanian alliance represented both strength and strategy, and it would prove pivotal in the coming battle. As the fragile truce between the Teutonic Order and the Polish-Lithuanian alliance came to an end in mid-1410, both sides began extensive mobilization of their armies. For the Teutonic Knights, Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen assembled approximately 20,000 soldiers, combining heavily armored knights, skilled infantry, and mercenaries from across their territories. Their army was well equipped, disciplined, and trained for both defensive and offensive operations. In contrast, the Polish-Lithuanian army, led by King Jogaila and Grand Duke Vytautas, amassed roughly 30,000 men, drawing on not only native forces but also allies and mercenaries from neighboring regions. Cavalry played a significant role, particularly with the nimble Lithuanian units and the Tatar horse archers who brought speed and tactical mobility to the battlefield. The Polish forces were known for their determination and coordination, while the Lithuanian troops contributed their experience in light cavalry warfare and raiding tactics. Both armies prepared meticulously, aware that this confrontation could determine the balance of power in the region for decades. Strategic points such as rivers, bridges, and fortifications were fortified, and scouts monitored enemy movements closely. The buildup was not only a military maneuver but also a psychological one. Demonstrating strength and readiness was key to intimidating the opponent and forcing favorable conditions for engagement. With forces ready and summer approaching, the stage was set for what would become one of the largest and most decisive battles in medieval Europe. The coming days promised a clash that would test leadership, strategy, and courage on both sides. Once mobilized, the Polish-Lithuanian army began its march into the heart of Teutonic territory, leaving a trail of destruction that demonstrated both their strength and determination. Key towns and fortresses along their route were targeted, including settlements like Gilgenberg, where the army scaled walls, engaged defenders, and set fires that consumed buildings and churches alike. These raids were often retaliatory, responding to prior Teutonic attacks on Polish lands, and served as a stern warning to the order. The invaders were not merely defending their borders, they were striking deep into enemy territory. The Teutonic Knights, led by Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen, could not ignore this aggression. Losing control of strategic points and seeing their citizens and garrisons under attack forced the Knights to abandon a purely defensive stance. The destruction of towns and the threat to key crossings, such as rivers and bridges, meant that Ulrich had little choice but to confront the Polish-Lithuanian army in open battle. The advance also revealed the coordination and discipline of the Allied forces. Cavalry units maneuvered quickly, infantry followed in formation, and siege tactics were employed with precision. The army's ability to combine Polish heavy cavalry with Lithuanian light cavalry and Tatar horse archers created a versatile and dangerous force capable of both rapid strikes and sustained engagements. By the time both armies neared Grunwald, the Teutonic Knights understood that a decisive battle was inevitable. The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only determine immediate territorial control but also alter the balance of power in the region for years to come. The long-anticipated confrontation finally arrived on July 15, 1410, near the village of Grunwald. Tens of thousands of soldiers from both sides gathered on the battlefield, the air tense with anticipation. The Polish army took position on the left wing, while the Lithuanians, along with their Tatar allies, held the right, and the Teutonic Knights formed a disciplined, heavily armored line in the center and flanks. Flags fluttered in the breeze, banners displayed heraldic symbols, and the clash of steel seemed imminent. Before the fighting began, there were ceremonial gestures and taunts. The Teutonic heralds sent the Polish king 2 swords, challenging him and Vytautas to battle. Jogaila, maintaining composure, accepted the gesture not for personal bravado but as a sign that divine will would guide the outcome. Both armies awaited the signal, with soldiers adjusting armor, gripping lances, swords, and axes, and preparing their cavalry for the charge. When the battle commenced, the sound was overwhelming, the clash of lances, the strikes of swords on armor, and the thunder of hooves across the field. The initial exchanges saw cavalry charging, infantry clashing, and close-quarter combat erupting in the center. The Lithuanian troops initially feigned retreat, drawing some Teutonic forces out of formation, while Polish units held firm, demonstrating discipline and tactical acumen. From the outset, it was clear that this engagement would be decisive and brutal, testing leadership, morale, and skill on both sides. The scale of the battle, combined with the stakes involved, ensured that the outcome would shape the political and military landscape of Eastern Europe for decades to come. As the clash at Grunwald intensified, the Lithuanian cavalry and their Tatar allies executed a clever and daring tactic. Early in the engagement, they feigned a retreat, appearing to flee from the Teutonic advance. This maneuver was likely influenced by steppe warfare traditions, where feigned retreats were used to lure enemies into overextending their lines. Many of the heavily armored Teutonic Knights, eager for a decisive strike, abandoned their defensive positions to pursue the seemingly retreating forces. This withdrawal created a critical opportunity for the Polish-Lithuanian alliance. While the Lithuanian troops drew enemy attention, Polish forces on the left wing held their ground, maintaining tight formations and inflicting steady pressure. The combination of a disciplined Polish defense and the strategic Lithuanian maneuver began to disrupt the cohesion of the Teutonic lines, leaving gaps that could be exploited. Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen, recognizing the threat but determined to maintain offensive momentum, personally led reserves in an attempt to stabilize the situation. Yet, the Teutonic army had been lured out of its carefully prepared defensive positions, making them vulnerable to counterattacks. The apparent retreat allowed the Lithuanians to regroup and re-enter the battle at a decisive moment, attacking Teutonic flanks and supporting the Polish advance. This early tactic shifted the momentum of the battle, demonstrating not only the bravery of the Lithuanian and Tatar troops but also the strategic intelligence behind their maneuvers. It set the stage for the eventual collapse of the Teutonic army, a turning point that would seal the outcome of the Battle of Grunwald. As the battle raged on, the Teutonic Knights began to lose cohesion under the relentless pressure from Polish and Lithuanian forces. Sensing the danger to his army and the chance to turn the tide, Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen led a reserve of roughly 500 knights in a bold, direct charge against the Polish right flank. This move was meant to strike fear into the enemy and restore control, but it proved to be his last act. Despite the bravery of the Teutonic Knights, the charge could not compensate for the already disrupted formations and exhausted soldiers. Polish units, reinforced by returning Lithuanian and Tatar troops, counterattacked with precision. Amid the chaos of hand-to-hand combat, Ulrich was killed, along with many of the highest-ranking officers. The loss of leadership caused panic among the remaining Teutonic forces. With their command structure shattered, the Teutonic army was surrounded and overwhelmed. Soldiers were cut down in the melee, and many fled in disarray. Pursuit by Polish and Lithuanian cavalry prevented the survivors from regrouping, turning the retreat into a rout. Camps and supplies were plundered, and the battlefield became a scene of devastation. According to contemporary accounts, thousands of Teutonic Knights perished, including nearly 211 of the 270 full brothers present at the battle. The collapse of the Teutonic forces marked a decisive moment in the Battle of Grunwald. The death of their Grand Master and the destruction of their army ensured that the order would never again command the same level of dominance in the region, signaling the start of their gradual decline. The aftermath of the Battle of Grunwald was catastrophic for the Teutonic Order. Contemporary records estimate that of the 270 full brothers of the order who fought, up to 211 were killed, including Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen and many senior commanders. Thousands of other knights and soldiers were either captured or slain, leaving the order's military and leadership severely weakened. Entire units were annihilated, and the surviving forces were forced to retreat northward into Prussia, pursued relentlessly by Polish and Lithuanian cavalry. For the Polish-Lithuanian alliance, the victory was resounding, though costly. Both sides suffered significant casualties, but the morale and strategic advantage clearly shifted to Jogaila and Vytautas. They were able to secure captured Teutonic banners, loot, and prisoners, further demonstrating their dominance on the battlefield. Religious rites and masses were conducted for the fallen, reflecting the solemnity of the victory and the scale of the loss. The battle had far-reaching consequences. While the Teutonic Order retained some territory, their ability to launch offensive campaigns was greatly diminished. The Polish-Lithuanian alliance, on the other hand, gained both prestige and strategic leverage in the region. The destruction of the Teutonic leadership and the heavy casualties inflicted on their forces marked a turning point, signaling the beginning of the order's long-term decline. Grunwald became a symbol of Polish-Lithuanian unity and military skill, celebrated for centuries as a defining moment when a coalition of nations successfully challenged one of the most feared military orders in medieval Europe. While the Teutonic Order managed to retain some fortified towns and territories after Grunwald, the battle marked the start of a long-term decline. Their leadership had been decimated, the army shattered, and their reputation as an invincible military force tarnished. To recover, the order had to rely increasingly on mercenaries, pay heavy reparations, and face growing scrutiny from the church, as Polish clerics accused them of centuries of excessive violence and lawlessness under the guise of religious conquest. For Poland and Lithuania, the victory solidified their political and military position in Eastern Europe. The display of coordination between Jogaila and Vytautas not only secured their borders but also enhanced their influence in the region. Captured Teutonic standards were proudly displayed in Polish and Lithuanian cathedrals, symbolizing the triumph of their alliance and serving as a potent reminder of what could be achieved through strategic unity and perseverance. The Battle of Grunwald became a legendary event, celebrated in chronicles, art, and later national memory as a pivotal moment in medieval history. While the Teutonic Order would continue to exist for centuries, it would never again achieve the same level of dominance. The clash demonstrated the power of combined forces, tactical innovation, and the importance of leadership, leaving a legacy that influenced military strategy, diplomacy, and regional politics for generations. In short, Grunwald was more than a single battle. It was a turning point that reshaped the political map of Northern Europe and marked the emergence of Poland-Lithuania as a formidable regional power. And there you have it, the story of the Battle of Grunwald, a clash that shook medieval Europe and reshaped the balance of power in the region. From the ambitions of the Teutonic Knights to the strategic brilliance of the Polish-Lithuanian alliance, this battle shows how courage, leadership, and determination can alter the course of history. The echoes of Grunwald remind us that even the mightiest powers are not invincible and that alliances and tactics often decide the fate of nations. Thank you so much for joining us today on this journey through history. If you enjoyed this story, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time for another incredible tale from the past.